As Americans can start ordering free at-home rapid COVID tests from the government, some may be wondering how to get the most accurate results. I'm Bronte Sorotsky with what a local health expert recommends.
Thousands of U.S. troops are now on heightened alert as fears of a potential Russian invasion of Ukraine grow. I'm Mather Rivera in Washington with more on how the Biden administration and NATO are responding to the escalating tensions coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jordan Abbey. The federal government has launched its website for Americans to sign up for free at-home COVID-19 tests, but health experts say you're going to need to ensure you follow those directions exactly. KOM's Bronte Sorotsky tells us how to get the most accurate results.
With COVID cases rising, more people have been seeking out and using at-home COVID tests. And now that Americans will soon have access to at least 4 tests shipped right to their homes, many may be wondering the best way to get accurate results. Jessica Liberty at Freeman Health System says it has to do with how well you can follow directions.
Part of the testing piece is the collecting of the specimen. So when you go to collect it, you have your nasal or Q-tip looking swab. It's really long, has the little cotton ball at the end. So you're going to put that at least a half of an inch in each nostril. And when you leave it in there, I don't mean just let it sit. I mean, you want to swish it around, touch all of your nostril hairs. It's going to itch. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to make your eyes water.
Liberty says the way the specimen is collected is key.
So a helpful hint for those that are collecting their own specimen is to stand in front of a mirror. You got to watch yourself because you don't think it's going in very far, or you think it's going in too far and it's not going in far enough.
For Joplin resident Charlie Brown, he knows what it's like to have the at-home test deliver a false sense of security.
But I bought 4 home tests from Walgreens and they all showed me as being negative. And then when I got my PCR, I was positive. So I was really concerned about that.
Brown recently recovered from a COVID infection and says at the time his rapid test was wrong, despite having symptoms when he tested.
I just think it's really important that if you are going to do the home test, that you follow it up with a PCR test, just so you're 100% sure.
Liberty says she's seen employers share a similar concern.
A lot of the times, employers won't accept an at-home test as a valid proof of illness, of COVID illness, so we validate that with our drive-through testing.
And if you do exhibit any symptoms, it's still best to just stay home. In Joplin, Bronte Sorotsky, KUAM News.
Liberty also says they've seen a lot of respiratory illnesses going around and says a negative test result doesn't necessarily mean you aren't sick. A new free COVID testing site in Pittsburgh is already experiencing delays in sending out results. The Seeds of Hope testing site opens today. Officials say the lab, though, that processes the results is dealing with a backlog of tests and a snowstorm. So there have been delays getting results. Still, Seeds of Hope says their site helps reduce the strain on hospitals.
Trying to help alleviate the spread of infection. So instead of going into the hospital, you're more than welcome to come here, stay in your car, and we could test you, so where then others aren't getting infected if you feel that you might be infected with COVID.
Seeds of Hope does only PCR testing. While it is free, starting on Wednesday, the site is going to require a copy of your insurance card. That's, of course, if you have one. Parts of the U.S. could be turning a corner in the COVID-19 pandemic, but hospitals and schools are continuing to face staffing shortages. Fox News correspondent Jonathan Seary has more.
It's a sign we could be on the other side of the Omicron surge. New COVID-19 infections are declining in areas first hit by the variant, such as the Northeast. But some parts of the South and West have not reached the peak of this surge. The World Health Organization warning countries today not to let their guard down.
Globally, the conditions are ideal for more variants to emerge. To change the course of the pandemic, we must change the conditions that are driving it.
Even as the surge subsides, infections are still keeping workers home sick or quarantined. Federal data show more than a fifth of U.S. hospitals reported critical staffing shortages over the last week. Some medical experts fear the shortage could lead to a backlog of care.
The end of the pandemic, I think, when that comes, is but simply the starting point for how we deal with the mountains of backlog of unmet care that's built up during the course of the pandemic.
Schools across the country also facing a shortage of teachers and staff. The majority of school districts have remained open, but some have turned to substitute teachers and parents to fill the gaps. In Oakland, California, teachers are demanding a better plan in case a number of them are out sick.
We want to make sure that these are solid commitments from the district that are going to last us through the end of the school year.
Nearly 4,500 schools did not offer in-person learning for at least one day last week due to COVID. In Atlanta, Jonathan Seri, Fox News.
Doug Eddy joining us now. Man, the early part of the evening was good when that sun was out, but got chilly.
Yeah, we had a cold front that rolled through during the afternoon hours, but prior to it, temperatures were fantastic for us today as our temperatures really warmed up as most of us went into the lower 60s for afternoon highs. My computer locked up on me, but we did go into the lower 60s for highs for us today. Let's see if I can manually do this. There we go. 61 was our afternoon high, but with this cold front turning much colder tonight, the next few days, of course, I'm going to be breaking this down for you with a little reboot here in just a bit.
Doug, thanks, man. Carthage man is facing new charges after he tried to escape custody during a court hearing. Authorities say 21-year-old Jacob Jones today appeared in a pretrial conference for a 2019 charge of tampering with a motor vehicle. During that hearing, authorities say Jones tried to run from the courtroom but was caught by deputies, got into a struggle. 2 deputies did receive minor injuries. Jones is now facing 2 counts of assault of a law enforcement officer, property damage, and resisting arrest. President Biden considering sending troops to Eastern Europe, this in an attempt to shore up NATO allies as fears of a potential Russian invasion into Ukraine grow. The president virtually met with European leaders today to discuss their options. Fox's Madeline Rivera is in D.C. with the latest on these escalating tensions.
More than 80 tons of U.S. military equipment, including ammunition, are now in Ukraine. The shipment's just a fraction of the roughly $200 million package that the U.S. committed to Ukraine to bolster its defenses, with more than 100,000 Russian troops gathered along its border. And now the president is weighing sending thousands of troops to Eastern Europe, too.
We've never ruled out the option of providing additional assistance in advance of an invasion.
On Monday, the president spoke with European leaders about the escalating tensions. It comes after a working weekend at Camp David, where he was briefed by his national security advisors about a range of options to deter Russia from invading Ukraine. About 8,500 troops are on heightened alert, though no final decision has been made.
The Secretary wants us postured to be ready for any other contingencies as well, but the bulk of them are aligned for the NATO response force.
The State Department is ordering some U.S. Embassy employees and all of their family members in Kiev to leave. NATO is also taking action, sending more ships and fighter jets to Eastern Europe.
We will always do what is necessary to protect and defend all our allies. And I welcome that allies are stepping up.
Meanwhile, Ukrainians living along the Russian border say they're doing their best to live normally despite the threat of an invasion.
We're joking that hope is the last thing to die. All of us are waiting for peace.
Other U.S. allies like the UK, Germany, and Australia are also withdrawing family members of staff from embassies in Ukraine, measures that Ukraine has described as premature. In Washington, Madeline Rivera, Fox News.
KOM News at 9 on Fox 14 takes this time now to honor another 4-state hero. Don Hunter served in the U.S. Army from 1943 to 45. Native of Joplin, Hunter was stationed in Germany. We are proud to thank and salute Corporal Don Hunter. He's tonight's 4-state hero. Doug Eddy's next with a complete look at the forecast a bit later. The Missouri Southern women are on a 5-game winning streak after beating 2 of the best teams in the country. Going to hear from the Lady Lions on their winning streak in sports.
We have the meat.
Well, it definitely turned out to be a nice Monday for us today. Temperatures actually pretty good as we went into the lower 60s during the afternoon. Man, there we go. Come on. Lower 60s, but turning much colder for us as we go through the overnight hours tonight and into the next few days. We do have a couple weak little waves. Could give some flurries, maybe some light snow showers late Wednesday into Thursday. The pattern does start to pick back up next week, which is the beginning of February. Of course, you can always get my long-range forecast on my month-long blog, KOAMNewsNow.com. All right, most of us 60 to lower 60s, but we had a cold front that slipped through, and temperatures have been falling ever since. It's been kind of windy, so it feels quite a bit colder outside. But 36 in Nevada, 39 Carthage, 42 in Anderson. Let's jump to Oklahoma. Grand Lake 43, Welch 42, Kansas 41 in Parsons, Iola checking in 36. A little bit cooler, but look at this colder air sliding south. We're not going to tap into the cold Arctic air, but we are going to cool down quite a bit over the next 24 hours. You can see the wind switching around out of the north, and they've been kind of kicking up 5 to about 15 miles per hour, which makes it feel a little bit colder than what it actually is. Currently outside, sitting at 39, northerly winds 5 to 10, humidity is at 67%. We've had a few clouds kind of streaming through during the evening hours. We'll call it partly cloudy skies. We are going to get some clouds as this little weak wave passes by. There's another little wave to our south. That won't affect us. Another little wave coming out of the northern parts of the Rockies. This is the one that will give some clouds, maybe some flurries or a few light snow showers by Wednesday into Thursday. All right, let's go through time. Partly cloudy tonight. Cold. We dip back to about 20. Kind of struggle to warm up tomorrow. Upper 20s to near 30 by noon. And I think most of us will top out kind of in that 33 to 35 degree range. So almost 30 degrees colder tomorrow. 20 to start, 30 by noon. Clouds kind of thicken up in the afternoon. Northerly winds at about 10 to 15. Tomorrow night, a lot of clouds stick around as we head into Wednesday morning. On Wednesday, clouds kind of thicken up again late in the day, and you can see some light little snow showers, mainly to our southwest. But we may get a few of these guys in here. It doesn't look like it's going to be a big deal, but we'll keep our eyes on it. Still clouds stick around even into Thursday with a few flurries as well. All right, wind chill factors tonight, 5 to 10 above zero as that colder air sneaks in. Wind chills sitting into the 20s all day long for us tomorrow, and then we kind of back down into the single digits once again by the time we head into tomorrow night. By Thursday, still kind of chilly, and then by Friday, we'll start to warm things back up and set up to see a pretty good weekend this coming weekend. 35 tomorrow, 43 Wednesday, 44 Thursday. Again, we could get a few flurries late Wednesday into Thursday morning. 43 Friday, back into the 50s by the weekend.
What do we need? More memory, more RAM? Maybe it's Monday.
I don't know. Yeah, it's just kind of freaking out on me a little bit.
All right. We appreciate it. Thanks so much.
I do need more memory, more RAM, though. If you could tell engineering.
Yeah, I'll get on that. Yeah, I'll message them right now. All right, we'll see you in a little bit. Thanks so much, sir. Coming up, another pressing issue for the White House.
President Biden under increasing pressure to address a surge in violent crime. I'm David Spunt at the Justice Department. The story coming up.
Keep yourself safe from
Crime on the rise in major cities. Police officials and lawmakers are making a big push to restore trust and funding to local law enforcement. Fox News correspondent David Spunt has more from the Department of Justice in Washington.
I think in America, we have a pandemic of lawlessness.
And he's not alone. In a new Fox News poll, 81% of voters say they're very or extremely concerned about violent crime. And big cities are bearing the brunt. In New York, shootings have roughly doubled since the start of the pandemic, with murders up 50%. Things are even worse in Chicago, with more than 800 homicides in 2021, the highest number in a quarter century. Police officials say new laws, including bail reform, are sending the message that there are no real consequences for violent criminals.
It's getting very, very difficult out there in the field of law enforcement to be able to continue doing what we have been doing.
The president says his administration is focused on addressing crime, and there could be a new executive order coming soon. Critics claim it may be an attempt to, quote, defund the police. But the president and members of his team are pushing back, saying the White House wants more money for cops to help them address the growing mental health crisis.
We ask cops to do everything, including be psychologists and social workers. Guess what? They need psychologists and social workers.
Meanwhile, officials in some cities, including New York, are shifting to a tough-on-crime stance as the violence intensifies.
We must take action to immediately stop the violence, and we must make long-term investments to keep it from returning.
51 police officers were shot and killed in the line of duty last year. That's the highest number since 2016. At the Department of Justice, David Spunt, Fox News.
Still ahead, the continuing debate.
The fight over COVID mandates is gearing up once again, this time in schools. I'm Caroline Shively. I'll have details straight ahead.
#polar opposites at the...
We all know exercise is good for us, but just 10 minutes a day does a body good. The medical journal JAMA Internal Medicine published a study on the impact of modest daily physical activity. The study looked at the physical activity of over 4,800 adults between the ages of 40 to 85 for a week. Researchers found just 10 minutes a day of modest to vigorous exercise could prevent about 110,000 deaths a year. They reported similar benefits between participants of different genders and races. A groundswell of opposition to vaccine mandates showed up in the nation's capital yesterday when thousands of protesters made their presence known. But they're not the only ones upset over COVID rules and regulations. Virginia's new governor threw out his predecessor's mask mandate in public schools and promptly triggered a lawsuit by seven of the state's school boards. All of this maneuvering has emotions raw on both sides. Caroline Shively has details now from Falls Church, Virginia.
Protesters from around the U.S. descended on Washington Sunday for the Defeat the Mandates rally, speaking out against COVID vaccine requirements.
I like to be able to choose what I put into my body. I have 8 children, and I am fighting for their freedom.
Just over the D.C. border in Virginia, another COVID mandate controversy. On Monday, 7 local school boards filed a lawsuit to challenge Governor Glenn Youngkin's executive order to leave masking decisions in public schools up to parents, even when local school boards have voted to require them.
This is really about parents making the best decision for their children. That is absolutely what's already in the Code of Virginia. I think the people playing politics is trying to do a one-size-fits-all mandate on every parent in every school district.
Some health experts are urging governments to wait before removing the masks.
I think it is too soon to do that because a lot of schools have built their preparations around the use of masks. And whatever we want to say about the benefit that masks are providing, it's providing some benefit.
Dr. Anthony Fauci says health officials need everything possible to fight the disease.
If we want to get out of this outbreak, vaccines, along with treatment, along with testing, and along with masking, is a very important part of the comprehensive approach to ending this pandemic.
A bit of good news on the COVID front. Dr. Fauci predicts that most states will peak in Omicron infections by next month. Caroline Shively, Fox News.
All right, so we're going to debate this a little bit. Next, why scientists say COVID-19 lockdowns can decrease the amount of lightning in our atmosphere.
Is Foundation 87 and running.
So a scientific study says that COVID-19 lockdowns are producing an unusual development in our weather. The study by Massachusetts Institute of Technology researchers says the lockdowns may be decreasing the amount of lightning in our atmosphere by 10 to 20%. Researchers used several methods to count lightning activity, with all showing a reduction. The study also involved aerosol levels that create conditions for lightning in the period between March and May of 2020. Now, there can be disagreement and some good dialogue, right? Some good debate dialogue within science. Doug Hetty stepped out, but we were talking about this. He was looking over the study. And he says the sample was small, and the time frame that they were looking at the science, there was relatively calm weather in the lower 48. So, you never know, I guess. But there you have it. That's what some scientists are saying. 30 more minutes, news, weather, and sports coming away. Area students donate port pillows to cancer patients over at Freeman's Cancer Institute.
U.S. athletes could face a harsh environment when they arrive in Beijing for the Winter Olympics. In London, I'm Alex Hogan with more on this story coming up.
We're here to help.
We are the 4 states only at Ashley Home Store.
An Oklahoma high school is helping make life a little more comfortable for cancer patients in Joplin. The Family and Consumer Sciences class at Blue Jacket Public Schools in Oklahoma created port pillows. Take a good look at them. Those are little pillows that can attach to seatbelts or purse straps to protect the patient's port where chemo meds are administered. Some of the students have family members who experienced port discomfort when dealing with cancer, while others have lost loved ones to this disease.
Just that compassion and empathy I think is so important, and I don't think we're born with that. I think that we have to learn that.
The port pillow donation started last year, and awesome job, guys. There's a new mural in downtown Pittsburgh, and now the surrounding businesses want help naming it. 12-foot by 29-foot mural features a tiger on the side of Main Street Axe Company's building. It was designed and painted by Pitt State art students. Now, Main Street Axe Company is reaching out to people on social media to come up with names for this tiger.
I hope it shows the community that we're here for not only to offer a fun activity, but also to give back a little bit. So I hope it gives some goodwill.
All right, so to give your suggestion, all you have to do is follow the Main Street Axe Company on Facebook or Instagram, tag yourself in a picture of the mural, and comment your name idea. Fire crews are starting to get a handle on an unusual and dangerous wildfire burning near Big Sur in Northern California. As of this morning, the fire has burned 700 acres and is only 35% contained, while the cause is still unknown. Wind gusts of up to 50 miles an hour and dead vegetation are feeding the flames. Cal Fire officials say it's unusual to have a wildfire on the coast this time of year. And despite months of record-breaking rain and snow, the National Weather Service described the fast-moving fire as, quote, surreal. More service cuts are coming to American Airlines. Carrier says it's cutting back on some of its flight meal and beverage services. It comes after pressure from the Flight Attendants Union to reduce potential COVID-19 exposure. That means no second beverage cart service on all long-haul domestic flights. Meal and beverage service on international flights are also going to be adjusted. Changes will take effect on Wednesday. American athletes going for gold at this year's Winter Olympics will be tested not only on the ice and slopes, but some pretty intense living conditions at the Olympic Village in Beijing. Strict protocols are in place to avoid a potential outbreak of COVID-19. Fox News correspondent Alex Hogan reports now from London.
With less than 2 weeks to go until the start of the Beijing Winter Olympics, there's growing concern for the safety of U.S. athletes attending the Games. The U.S. is one of at least 9 countries staging a diplomatic boycott of the Olympics over human rights abuses in China. The IOC has a long-standing rule against athletes making political statements at the Games. That's now backed up by the threat of punishment from the organizing committee in Beijing.
In this situation, it is just not worth it for athletes to speak out. The only answer is to say that athletes should stay silent until they get home, and that's a really horrible place to be.
The first cases of the novel coronavirus were detected in Wuhan, China at the end of 2019. Now the country will host the global event that welcomes competitors from all over the world. There have already been at least 72 cases among Olympic staff, a number that the top medical expert for the Games says is expected and comparable to what was seen at the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo. So far, none of the athletes arriving in Beijing have tested positive. The plan, once again, is to keep athletes in a bubble for the duration of the Games.
This is distracting them from sport. And so, yes, they may feel isolated, but more than that, they're going to feel like their performances are not the most important thing at the Olympics.
All participants will need to prove that they have been vaccinated and submit to daily COVID testing. The limited crowds are encouraged to clap instead of shout to prevent the airborne spread of the virus. In London, Alex Hogan, Fox News.
Wait later, tough times if you're needing to buy a new car. But look at some of the sticker shock.
Scanning the QR code.
It definitely turned out to be a nice Monday for us today. Temperatures into lower 60s during the afternoon, which is pretty nice for this time of the year. We are going to cool down quite a bit as we go through the next 24 hours. Cold front rolled through earlier today, We do have a weak wave. The middle of the week will give us some clouds, maybe a few flurries, light little snow shower. The pattern does start to pick back up starting next week, especially here in about 2 weeks. Of course, you can get my long-range forecast on my month-long blog, komnewsnow.com. All right, let's go outside. Lower 60s for us earlier today. Now we're dropping off. We have a cold front that shifted through, so temperatures are dropping back into the mid to upper 30s, still hanging on near 40 in northeastern parts of Oklahoma, but everybody's going to back down near 20 later on tonight. This cold air is sinking south. It's not Arctic air. It's pretty cold, but you can see the difference from Joplin to Little Rock. We're in the 30s now when you have the 50s and just to our south, and the winds were out of the south earlier today, have switched around toward the north. So a little breezy at times. This makes it feel a little bit colder than what it actually is. Let's go outside. Currently, 7th and range line sitting at 39, northerly winds 5 to 10, humidity is at 67%. We've had a few clouds kind of streaming through. It's not a big deal. Partly cloudy skies for us tonight, and that's really about it. Here in the 4-state area, we do have a weak wave shooting across the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf states, staying off to our south. Up across parts of Montana, Wyoming, northern parts of Colorado. Here's our next little wave. It's not going to do a whole bunch for us, but it will give some clouds, maybe a random flurry or two, light snow shower by the middle of the week. Tonight, cold. We drop back near 20, kind of in and out of the clouds tomorrow. Clouds increasing, especially in the afternoon. We approach 30 by noon. Then high temps only into low, maybe mid 30s. So quite a bit colder than what we saw today, almost 30 degrees colder. 20 to start, 30 by noon, high temp at 35, northerly winds 10 to 15. In and out of the clouds continue tomorrow night and into Wednesday morning. As we go through the daytime hours on Wednesday, we're going to start in the teens. A lot of clouds sticking around. You can see a few light little snow showers and snow flurries trying to work in late Wednesday into Thursday morning. Also, wind chills, kind of cold. We'll drop back into the single digits. By morning, our wind chills will stay in the 20s all day long for us tomorrow and back down into the single digits once again for us tomorrow night. So cold the next few days. Staying chilly on Thursday. As we go into Friday, we go back into the 40s and then we bounce into the 50s by the time we head into the weekend. 35 tomorrow, 43 Wednesday, 44 on Thursday, a few flurries. 43 on Friday, 50s, return by the weekend.
These are some big swings in temperature.
That's also very common for
yeah.
us. Yeah.
All right, thanks so much, Doug. A new threat could cause higher prices for consumers. Fox News correspondent Ashley Strohmeyer has more on that and details on why the prices of some goods, though, may not surge in the near future.
It's just the two of us, and I spend $500 a week on food, and I don't even know what I bought.
I feel sorry for people with big families. Prices are terrible. There's no reason for it.
Supply chain experts say we should expect to see increased prices at checkouts continue for a number of reasons. Businesses are paying higher money for gas, there's a shortage of workers, and the spread of the Omicron variant is creating issues for employers.
It's increased the variability in availability of labor, and it's also affected demand in sporadic ways.
Consumers are rushing out and stocking up on items, which puts pressure on companies to either announce products are sold out or it forces them to focus on the high-volume products. Fears overseas are also causing concerns for Americans, as Omicron variant cases have been showing up in China. There's a worry that could cause a manufacturing slowdown in items like semiconductors, which could impact the cost of cars and other electronics.
The question is how long these lockdowns would last and how many regions of the country would be affected.
Meanwhile, some experts predict prices for competitive goods may not surge as high as other items. They believe companies would rather take a financial hit than lose out on customers. Prices may eventually trend down, but some in the business industry say that largely depends on what happens with the future spread of the coronavirus and how it impacts the workforce. Ashley Strohmeyer, Fox News.
Coming up in sports, the Missouri Southern women grabbing some momentum with a pair of wins over the two of the best teams in the country. Plus, you notice how happy Doug Hetty is today? Post-game reaction from the Chiefs' thrilling overtime victory over the Buffalo Bills last night. Jacob Leonard has more after this break.
Missouri Southern women's basketball team is one of the hottest teams in the MIAA right now. The Lions have won 5 games in a row after beating 2 of the best in the country. They find themselves just 1 game back of first place with 10 games to go. The Missouri Southern Lions are starting to find their groove.
We've got kids that are starting to really believe in each other and in themselves, so it's fun to watch.
The Lions have won 5 straight games, including wins over second-ranked Fort Hays State and 14th-ranked Nebraska Kearney in the last week.
We've been saying this whole weekend, like, why not us? Why don't we go and beat someone that, is ranked above us? And it's really exciting, and all of us were, bought into it, even the trainers and everyone.
We talked before we went on the Hays Kearney trip is earning some respect in our league because, we got off to a good start, but, we haven't beat anybody that was above us yet. And so getting those 2 wins gave us a lot of confidence, gave it a little bit of respect in the league, I believe.
Building chemistry and trust has paid off for a young Missouri Southern team.
Different players have been stepping up each game. I feel like we all have really big trust in Lacey. She's our point guard. We trust her to get to the basket and do what we have to do. Maddie getting to the basket as well. I feel like they have a lot of confidence and trust in me as well. Even if my shots are not falling, they keep telling me to keep shooting, keep attacking. So I think we all trust each other and we all love each other.
Lacey can make plays. Maddie in the post. Amaya, Lane can make shots. Brooke can make shots. Caitlin can. We got different kids that can make plays late in ball games.
And while they've taken care of business in the last few weeks, the Lions know it won't matter if they don't finish strong in the final 10 games on their schedule.
It's going to be extremely important this week that we do what we need to do. We continue to improve on both ends of the floor and make sure we're taking our next step, that we want to go in the direction we want to go.
We just have to keep going and doing what we're doing. Can't get complacent just because we've been winning. We just got to keep going hard in practice and everything and staying together and keep playing together.
Southern is back in action on Wednesday night hosting Rogers State. The women's game begins at 5:30 with the men's game to follow at 7:30. The Kansas City Chiefs are headed back to the AFC Championship game for the 4th consecutive season. The Chiefs won an overtime thriller over the Buffalo Bills last night, 42-36, to earn their spot in the conference title game. Now, the Chiefs got the ball first in overtime. They went 8 plays, 75 yards straight down the field and won it here. An 8-yard touchdown pass from Patrick Mahomes to Travis Kelce. But the most impressive part of the night is how the game even got to overtime. Chiefs were down 3, got the ball with 13 seconds to go on their own 25, but Mahomes pulled off what seemed, let's say, unlikely, connecting on a pair of passes, getting his team into field goal range. Here's Andy Reid on what he told Mahomes before that drive started.
When it's grim, be the Grim Reaper and go get it. So he did that. He made everybody around him better, which he is great at. And, he just does it effortlessly.
The play to Travis, it was kind of a thing where he wasn't necessarily supposed to do that, but after the timeout, we got to look at what the defense was doing. And he actually said it to me. He's like, "Hey, if they do it again, I'm gonna take it right down the middle between both the guys guarding me." And he went up the field, gave him the ball, and he got in field goal range.
And that's a look at sports. We're back with more news after this.
If you're thinking about getting a new car this year, be prepared to pay through the moonroof or sunroof. Fox News chief correspondent Jonathan Hunt is in LA with more.
It's a very good time to be a car dealer if you can get the inventory. It's a very tough time to be a car buyer. Take a look at the figures. We are told by J.D. Power that the average price for a new car in December was over $45,000. That is an increase from 12 months earlier that far outstrips the general rate of inflation. It's all about supply and demand as well. We are also told that there's something like 800,000 cars at dealerships right across the entire country now. That sounds like a lot, but look at what it is usually. 3 to 4 million, so a huge decrease in the number of vehicles available. So if you're looking for a deal, forget it. Listen here.
If you don't want the price they're offering, there's someone who's going to come in 5 minutes after you and want that same vehicle and be willing to pay the price. That's how quickly vehicles are turning and what's going on with prices right now.
Now, the supply chain crisis has got a lot to do with this, of course. A lot of vehicles are actually constructed in the United States, but the parts for those vehicles still have to be imported. Here's Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, so a lot of the times it is the availability not only of imported cars, but of course in our U.S. auto industry that's so important, the availability of certain parts or components. That's one more element of why we have a sense of urgency about improving the flow of goods across the country. And until those bottlenecks are resolved, you're going to continue to see more issues.
And if you're hoping that there'll be some relief in the short term, I'm sorry, you're out of luck. We are told by the experts that these kind of price crunches and high prices on vehicles, new and used, are going to continue at least until 2023. Jonathan Hunt, Fox News.
2023, man. All right. Going to check out the shows and entertainment coming your way this week right here on Fox 14 when we come back. A dramatic finale, a first look at a new show, and all new episodes throughout this week. Here's a look at what's coming up on Fox TV with Fox's Ashley Dvorkin.
It's time for the Our Kind of People season finale. Here's what's hot on Fox.
Tell me what you doing here.
First, Monday brings an all-new 911 Lone Star and more fallout from the ice storm reaping havoc in Austin.
I don't have time for this.
Then on The Cleaning Lady, Tony gets an ultimatum from Garrett at the FBI, putting her son's medical treatment in jeopardy. TK! Tuesday, it's a replay of 911 Lone Star for those playing catch-up on last week's episode. Stop! And then on Our Kind of People, Angela and Leah team up to get to the truth about the past, while Angela also faces big decisions about her future in Oak Bluffs on the season 1 finale. It could be her voice. I bought it. Wednesday kicks off to the tune of I Can See Your Voice and more celebrity guests joining the rotating panel of detectives.
We are here to inspire you all.
Then on Next Level Chef, it's a burger challenge for the teams on each kitchen tier. Thursday, gather around the campfire for a wilderness outing on Joe Millionaire for Richer or Poorer. Then it's a birthday party on Call Me Kat with several surprises in store. Sarah? The night rounds out with Sarah's friends helping her rejoin the dating pool on Pivoting. Friday, Fox Sports presents WWE Friday Night SmackDown.
It's the real Dirty Dancing.
And in First Looks, check out Fox's upcoming celebrity dance competition, The Real Dirty Dancing, hosted by Stephen Twitch Boss, with stars reliving the movie moments in hopes of becoming the next Baby and Johnny. The Real Dirty Dancing starts Tuesday, February 1st, right here on Fox. In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
And that's our time for tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. Going to leave you with video of animals at the Brookfield Zoo in Chicago enjoying some old Christmas trees. Be safe. Do this all again tomorrow. See you then.